Hello and welcome. My name is Kate Johnson and I am the Faculty Support and Development Manager in the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning. I'll be the host for this session, The Value of Mentoring, Networking, and Being an Assertive Self-Starter. Microphones will be muted for this presentation, but I encourage you to post questions and comments in the chat. They will be addressed at the end. Also, keep an eye on the chat for a link to a helpful session feedback survey. Now, I'm pleased to introduce you to Bill Davis, lead faculty and assistant professor in the Forbes School of Business and Technology.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to present with Kate. She has a piece in this presentation today, too. And what I would just like to say to everyone here before we get started, you're going to see some content here, some concepts, constructs, and what the goal is to kind of tell you a story, so to speak, you know, with all of these different constructs and things that we put into this presentation so that you can take some action on them and you can benefit from some of these. You know, you can't tell that we're extroverts. I mean, we love people. We like working for people. So a lot of the networking and stuff like that kind of comes natural, you know, throughout the careers that we've had. But you know, kind of take what you want out of this. You'll see a good selection of content, and we hope you benefit. And the purpose today is really to present a meaningful and inspiring presentation that identifies and explains the value of mentoring and networking. That's what we want to do, convey those principles. And we want to talk also about our experiential learning that we've gained from our real world careers. And I've got 3 decades in the PepsiCo system, and I've learned a lot and experienced a lot, successes and failures. And what I'd like to do is I convey some of the parts of my talk is to allow you to see me connect some of this content to some of those real world situations and applications and talk a little bit about what I learned from it and how I networked and some of the things that I did. So with that said, that's really the general purpose of this today. And what I'd like to do is just talk a little bit really quick here about a meaningful purpose, okay, about connecting. This came from a Forbes article I read, impact, meaning, and purpose. So when you look at these 3 areas here, think about what's significant to you. Some of this you already know, it could be redundant, you've heard it before, but there might be a nugget or 2 in here that you will relate to, and you'll say, boy, that fits in my situation, or this is something I could use in this kind of a scenario. So kind of keep an open mind as you listen. And here's an article for you too that we'll put in the chat. This is a Forbes article that I had read a while back, and I liked it because it just talked about how these 3 key areas, these 3 concepts are intertwined. You know, the purpose, why we're here. I just read that purpose. The meaning. You know, leaders influence positive outcomes, and they inspire, they influence, but they also impact positive, meaningful results. So the result will be what you get out of this. If you're able to take some of this and apply it, and maybe it just makes a little change, maybe it fine-tunes you. So that's why we're here today, to pay it forward and to give you something that you can use. Now, with that said, here's really how it'll flow here. You know, we're gonna take 25 minutes of your time. It's going to be relatively painless, and you're able to pull some of these things for yourself that you can use. And here's how the agenda goes here. Kate will watch the chat box, and so feel free to post in there, and we'll catch that question and we'll answer it. Kate's going to cover the first few slides on mentoring. I think we've got her with 3 or 4 slides here. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about assertiveness as being a self-starter. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about networking. And then also I'm going to provide you with some tips and insights on how to engage people, create those conversations, keeping an open mind. And we're going to give you an acronym that we think you will enjoy and you'll be able to apply it and use it. And so really that's it, you know, to conceptualize and connect and create some real world application, whether it's on the job, off the job, through the job, you know, value, meaningful and desirable things that you can use. So with that said, I am going to turn it over to my colleague and friend, Kate Johnson.
Thanks, Bill. I appreciate you inviting me to be a guest speaker in your presentation. I'm honored to join you and excited to present at TLC this year. When we talk about a mentor, we're describing someone who is experienced in a field, an area of study, or even life that a mentee hopes to gain meaningful knowledge from through the building of a relationship and setting goals. Though most relationships are very structured, you can have both formal and informal mentor relationships. Next slide, please. For example, I've had coaches, professors, high-level managers, and direct supervisors that I would say have been informal mentors for me. We build relationships, they've guided my thinking, and also how I process the world around me. Bill, for example, who at one point was a direct supervisor in our careers, is an example of someone I would consider to be an informal mentor. Bill and I continue to build our relationship years after working together directly, and he offers me opportunities just like this one here to join him and develop in my own career. The picture actually that you're looking at on the screen is from another talk that he invited me to participate in with him last fall at a local liberal arts college. It actually happens to be both of our, an alma mater for both of us. But this is one example of how Bill and I continue to develop our informal mentor relationship. Next slide. On the other side of the coin are formal mentor relationships. They're much more structured and organized. The mentor and the mentee meet regularly and often over for a long period of time. Though both types of mentors work to build relationships, formal mentors work with a mentee to set very specific goals and then help them develop a path to reach them. When I've worked in a formal mentor capacity, it was always really important for me to build the relationship first and foremost. And then through the relationship, you get a better sense of what is driving your mentee to get to their goal. Also, I find that mentees have an idea of where they want to end up, but they struggle with mapping out what that path is. Through the building of the relationship, the mentor is better able to see the path and how it can be laid out for the mentee so that they're not only challenged, but motivated along the way. We're lucky enough to have two wonderful opportunities at Ashford for folks to get involved in formal mentor relationships: the CHAMPS Peer Mentoring Program and the Center for Women's Leadership in the Forbes School of Business and Technology. Between the two programs, there are wonderful opportunities for everyone to participate. And I'll post the link to those websites in the chat. Back to you, Bill.
Thank you very much, Kate, and thank you for your words there. I know we've impacted a lot of good things together, teaming up. So it's always a pleasure to team up with you and to make a positive impact. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that there's a couple of my mentors in here, Dr. Mike Riley, and a few people that have been influential in my journey. And I don't see everybody that's in the session here, but I see Dr. Mike. And so when Kate talks about those formal and informal mentors, boy, I'll tell you, I really appreciate the opportunities people have given to me as I've moved through my learning continuum, my development continuum. And I just never forgot that. And Dr. Charlie Minnick says that, you know, you work hard and good things happen, but someone believes in you and gives you that opportunity. So a lot of people have opened doors and they've been mentors for me. And they, as Kate talks about mapping, oh boy, I'll tell you what, they help me see that next step. And I kind of get to stand on their shoulders, you know, and see more. So keep that in mind as you select a mentor. And, you know, you're going to learn from everybody, but some you just might want to line up with and align with. So with that said, there's actually 3 articles. I love writing these short articles, 600-700 words, and I contribute them to the Ashford Forward Thinking, the Institute for Certified Professional Managers. And what happens is it kind of focuses me, and I'm able to help my students that I mentor or just teach. And there's content in here because I do a little research. I put my experiences in there. And here's an article that kind of stimulated me to want to do this talk. And it's, Kate will put this link in the chat, but it's 4 tips for starting and expanding your network. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this article. Also, I'm going to talk about this other article that I did, which is called How to Take Initiative and Become a Self-Starter. Okay. Taking that initiative, taking action, you know, seeing that vision. That's where it all starts. And then kind of planning and putting things together and then making a contribution. Maybe you got a project you want, and you go out there and you get the participants and you set a plan and you know your purpose, and then you communicate and you get together. But a lot of that sometimes takes some initiative. Sometimes it's a little bit uncomfortable because it might be some new landscape for you. But you're gonna pick up a few insights from this article today, because I am going to include that in this talk. Now, also too, what I want to say is, take initiative, be a self-starter, but think of yourself as a leader. See yourself as someone that's inspiring, improving people, processes, organizations, departments. See yourself having integrity, that firm adherence to a standard, that you know you can make a positive difference, and express that to someone, and find your mentor and find how to fit that in, and so you get the ask right when you're looking for those opportunities. Now, go forward, think of yourself as a leader, someone who takes initiative. See yourself, your self-image, be enthusiastic, cooperative, and I love this, be an assertive self-starter. Give your very best, and don't worry about failure. I like this Michael Jordan quote. He said, I failed over and over again in my life, and that's why I have succeeded. We've all failed, right? Fail forward, learn from your mistakes. Don't worry about failures. Worry about the chances that you miss if you don't try. Now, I included Dr. Laura Palmer Noon in here because I really like something she said when she was our provost and chief academic officer. What she said was this: here's 3 attributes for success: attitude, attitude, attitude. And what I really like about that, it kind of does come down to, is the glass half full or is it half empty? How do you look at life? Are you optimistic? That doesn't mean that you don't see the challenges or the things that are right or wrong. What it just means is that, you see it as an opportunities. We got to manage through this. We stay rational. We figure out a plan and we map out a plan. And that's what mentors can do for you, because that's what Kate had just said about helping you map your course, and someone that can say, try this, or did you consider this? But that's what mentors do for you. And Dr. Laura Palmer Noon reminded me that I've always said this: I think my greatest asset isn't that I'm the brightest bulb on the tree. I think my greatest asset is my attitude, because it's always positive and I'm always moving forward. Now, with that said, let's talk a little bit about, the dynamic world around us and the continuous change in the situations that change us and challenge us. And, so when you understand your professional purpose and the roles you play in life, and you combine this with your EQ, your emotional intelligence, social awareness, relationship management, self-management, all of those things that come into EQ, when you're aware of all this in the dynamic and you're conscious of this, now you can take more informed action, because you're seeing things objective in your role and you're aligning to the organization. But, notice that the colleagues and your friends around you, are they willing to take initiative? How do they create favorable outcomes for themselves? You can learn from each other, accept challenges, and align to your organization's leadership, strategy, systems, structure, culture. Make a contribution. See how your career fits to that, and give your very best. Shape your vision and your personal success. It really does start, I believe, with a picture of the future, how you see it. And then what goals are you going to set SMART goals to achieve those things, but you're mobilized, you're moving toward those goals, and now you're increasing your increasing your impact in performance. Now, also too, consider positive self-expectancy. Expect to win. In my PepsiCo career, we always used to talk a lot about in the training about can-do attitudes, will-do attitudes. Will-do attitudes are strictly attitudinal. Do you have the will to want to do this? Can-do is more kind of a skill thing, and but you have a can-do attitude that you want to put forth your very best. Don't worry about failure. Okay. Now, when you see and shape your vision, when you're out there moving toward it, good things just happen. Now, that's kind of how to search yourself a little bit, to think about those things. Now, think about, I told you earlier, think about what you might take out of that. Some of it you've probably heard before, but what nugget or two might add some value to you, something that you define as desirable and meaningful. And once you kind of recognize that and you jot it down, and you got to know, now you shape it. Now you go get more research. Now you get other examples. But just reflect on how powerful that is when you're seeing the bigger picture, when you're applying your EQ, when you're moving forward. So now you're set with your goals and your vision where you want to go. Now, people, the 5 key business drivers, cash, profits, growth, asset utilization, and here's the final one, people. In organizations, you got to have people. I could not pull off this presentation without Kate Johnson, without the TLC platform, without people. People are a huge asset, and especially mentors, because mentors, you can call someone up, and I do this often with my mentors. I say this, do you have 10 minutes for me, please? And they'll say, and I give them the time because I don't want them to think I'm going to talk for an hour. But if it's going to be 10 or 15, I respect their time and I try to stay within the 10 or 15. I say, I want to bounce something off you. Can I tell you how I'm thinking? I'm not quite sure if I'm there or not. I wanted to see what your thought was and just kind of get, sure, I'd be happy to do that for you. And all of a sudden now you got trust. You built that trust. You cultivated that trust over a period of time, like I've cultivated trust with Kate. And trust is honesty, it's competence, it's reliability, dependability, it's likability. That's why you want to go along and get along with everyone. You want to network. You want to be in networks because we all have strengths and weaknesses. And when you look at these networks, I know where my limitations are and I know where my strengths are. But in a network, now you can start to put it all together and what kind of group you want to be in, what team you want to be in, who's helpful. Some people just have unbelievable conceptual skills, people skills. Some people have all kinds of technical skills. Some people have just absolutely outstanding conceptual skills and human relations skills. So people can create bridges for you. So never forget that as you're working with your mentors and you're working in your organization. So how do you expand your network? Well, start with your closest contacts. Be inclusive. Be passionate about learning. I hope you've sensed my passion. I've approached everything in my life like this, even from the very first independent distributorship that I got when I was working at 7-Up, and that truck was like Wrigley Field to me. I put that uniform on. I serviced over 100 customers, and that took me all the way to Chicago, where I had 5,000 in some accounts, $170 million in sales, and I had a workforce with about maybe over 100 plus routes, key accounts, people to manage. But I knew I couldn't do all that. So I had to make sure that I had a good network. And boy, did I deliver one when I talked about, these different segments. I knew the people. I was wired. I made sure people were wired. I equipped them for success. I led and I lifted others, and I made sure I nurtured them. But that's what mentors do. So let them feel your passion, support each other, and just continue to be you and be authentic and genuine. Now, what are some of the benefits? A strong network can do wonders for your success while in school and after graduation. I can't tell you how many students that I'm still talking to that call me after a class and they'll say, you have some time, and I'll just engage in a chat. And sometimes I can't help them, but I'll line them up with career services, or I'll sit here and I'll give them some tips, or I'll see maybe that they're a little bit afraid of some area that really all they really have to worry about is the fear itself. There's nothing to be afraid of. I'll boost their confidence level. I want to lead and lift them. But that's what happens when you got a support network. And what do we say in first courses that students come into? We say, get a support network. It's very important that everybody understands why you're going to school, because you're balancing roles, you're balancing a career, your occupational progress throughout your lifetime. Okay, so you see that. Now take care to keep in touch with everyone, including your instructors. Although your network will differ, your network will include people from different generations. Now, bridge the gaps. Dr. Rosabeth Moss Kanter is a Harvard business editor or a contributor. She's a Harvard professor. I love her books. I read her book, Confidence, How Winning Streaks Begin and End. And she says that confidence is the sweet spot between arrogance and despair, right? So you don't want to be afraid. You don't want to be overconfident. You want to be right in the middle. But she says, have a higher sense of purpose, be open to experience. And she says, find common ground. So find common ground with people, keep an open mind, even if there's a different generation, embrace diversity. You will find commonality in your commitment to helping each other succeed. Everybody has a little different need and want, and we're all different. Nobody has the same DNA out there. You know, we're unique, but we are a team. And when we're a team, we're all together and we're aligned. Now, there you go for some tips on networking. Now, let me give you a few tips because I'm keeping time here too, Kate, and I can see we got 10 minutes left, and I'm going to bring it home here. And hopefully we're hopefully, again, our goal, we are adding value to you. That's all. And that's what we're here for, to add value, because we value people. And that's why when Kate and the Cetal team and Morgan and everybody got together and started TLC, that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to add value. They wanted to create a platform. And I love participating in this. So this is a great platform. So let me give you some insights. This is a great book that I read. It's pretty practical, but this is common sense stuff. Deborah Fine, The Fine Art of Small Talk. Now, let me just catch up here a second to make sure that I'm covering my notes. Now, when you look at, I'm going to go back to this slide. When you look at this, prepare and formulate icebreakers in advance. Understand the context and situation. Good leaders understand the context and situation they're leading in. Right now, I'm in a TLC environment. I don't want to come in here and start talking baseball or something outside of the topic. I want to stay right here, learning and develop, mentoring, networking. Be friendly, set a welcoming tone. Hopefully, you can see we're genuine. Introduce yourself first. Greet someone by name. Keep the conversations going. Here's an acronym for you. Never forget this. FORM, form. Here's some great things you can talk. How's your family? How's everything going? What new things are you doing with your family? You got any vacations planned? Hey, how's everybody doing with COVID-19? Is everything fine? You know, family open-ended questions are good. Now, occupation. Hey, what are you doing these days? How are things working? What did you develop that's new? You know, I love interacting. I see Emily out there. I love interacting with the Zovio and Ashford folks that handle all the content for the courses when we build them, because I always learn something. I get to work with publishers. They line me up. So I just know they've got a neat occupation that I've never done before. So I'm lined in there because I'm going to walk away and get some value. So now here's another one. So form, FORM. Let's talk about recreation. Hey, what are some of the sports you like? What are you doing this weekend? Hey, Kate, I noticed on Facebook that you had the kids over to the Pumpkin Festival and they were all dressed up and everything. That was so cool. But you see, that example there is genuine and sincere, and it hits on this acronym. It starts some energy. It creates people. It helps you bond networks. And then miscellaneous stuff. But, you know, be natural, pay attention to your surroundings and clues, keep the conversations going. Beware, though, there are certain topics you should avoid. Don't bring up gossip, controversial issues, personal misfortunes, negative. Also, if you're talking to a casual acquaintance, avoid questions related to, you know, someone's job that may have changed and impacted their lives negatively, or maybe not favorably. You know, those are the kind of things you want to keep top of mind here. And, you know, allow them to bring that up to you. You know, so when you're meeting people for the first time, stay in the form zone. You'll see how easy that is and how that really gives you a big benefit. Pay careful attention to body language. You can, you know, you see my tone here. You see I'm in energy here. I'm moving, you know, I'm trying to convey my point. But pay attention to body language. Listen carefully and naturally. Make your conversation feel listened to. Active listen. Send positive verbal cues when someone's speaking to show you're listening. Ask follow-up questions. Exit a conversation gracefully. So there are 10 tips for you that I wanted to leave with you. And, you know, again, common interest, funny, you know, all of this comes together very, very well. But don't worry about rejection. Let go of that whole fear. Have a can-do attitude. And as Dr. Rosabeth Moss-Canner says, she says, and I love this, have a higher sense of purpose, be open to experience, and find common ground. We're not going to agree on everything, but I'll bet you we'll agree on a lot of things. And especially when we got a common interest of furthering student success and learning and systems and all that, it all just comes together. So just to kind of sum it all up here for you, we really appreciate you listening today. And you've just gotten a lot. So you sorted out what you think you need. Kate's put some articles in there. And Kate, I'm going to stop my share here and turn it back over to you. And hopefully everybody gains some value here.
Thanks, Bill. I appreciate everybody's comments on the chat. I will share that Bill and I both share a background in sales and marketing. And we, so reading body language and listening to understand what it is that the other person is needing or asking for is a skill that we honed in our previous roles. But I would argue that those skill sets are necessary in networking. And I know a couple of people had mentioned that they were introverts, and that's sort of a more challenging conversation to have when you're really digging in. But it's also something that you can practice and get better at. So those are things that you can, Emily had took up the tip that Bill had mentioned about working within your local contacts. And those are some really low risk conversations that you can have with people where you can practice those examples that Bill had listed for getting to know people and feeling out those conversations and looking for body language. Yeah. All right, go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, there was a question there on the FORM acronym, family, occupation, recreation. M is just miscellaneous,
miscellaneous.
Just kind of staying there if there's something interesting, like, hey, how do you think the election's going to go? Or holy mackerel, we got, something kind of simple, not someone's going to get you in an argument with everyone. But I mean, go along, get along and create that whole positivity, because that's really, when you find those commonalities, it's powerful. It is just so powerful.
Well, thank you, Bill, and thank you to the audience for your participation in today's session. We hope you'll take a moment to complete the brief survey at the link posted in the chat. We encourage you to attend tomorrow's keynote with Dr. Warren Heyman and Kamaria Macy from Morgan State University, which takes place at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Remember that you can access all presentations via the TLC online event on Eventbrite and continue the conversation and engage with conference participants, on social media by using the hashtag AUTLC. Enjoy the rest of the TLC.